Hello. So we are going to be covering seed plants in this presentation. The technical term when we're talking about seed plants is spermatophytes. So these are any plants that are able to create seeds. Seeds allow plants to produce new plants in drier areas. So if we compare this to, for example, ferns that need a really wet area for their sex cells to travel through the water, um, these spermatophytes can survive in relatively drier areas and still reproduce. Most plants, in terms of their horticultural use, can grow from seeds. Again, you may choose to reproduce them asexually instead, but a lot of them can be grown from seeds as an option. So there's two big groups when we look at spermatophytes. This is the gymnosperms. These are plants that have bare seeds. Again, they're exposed to the elements, and they do not produce flowers. That's not part of their particular reproduction process. And then angiosperms, the bigger group that we tend to think of for most plants. These have seeds inside of fruit. And again, think about our horticulture definition of fruit. This could be any kind of fleshy coating around a seed. So a typical fruit at the grocery store, or a nut, a kernel of corn, the exterior portion of it, those would all count as a fruit that the seed could be present in. And angiosperms have flowers. They are all of our flowering plants. So what we're going to do here is kind of look at some examples of both gymnosperms and angiosperms, talk a little bit about some of the unique characteristics for them, especially in terms of their seeds, and in the case of angiosperms, their flowers, and we're going to talk about some of the uses that humans have for them in general, why we cultivate these plants in terms of horticulture. So our first example of a gymnosperm is the ginkgo. There's only one species that still exists today. These were around during the time of the dinosaurs, but this is the only species that has survived, and that's Ginkgo biloba. You've probably heard that term before, maybe in terms of its medicinal purposes, so I wouldn't be surprised if you've heard that. The male trees have cones, again, to produce the male portion of sexual reproduction for these particular plants. And the female trees have exposed ovules, again, for combining to create whole new embryos with these particular species. Ginkgo are used in bonsai. They are used as food, and they're used for medicinal purposes, particularly as a dietary supplement. Conifers are another example of gymnosperms. So these are mostly trees and shrubs. Most of them are evergreens. When we think of evergreen trees, again, ones that maintain that green color into the winter. And these do thrive really well in cold environments, but they're not exclusively found there. This includes cedars, firs, junipers, pines, redwoods, and spruces. All of these create cones with seeds. Again, the seeds are more or less exposed, but they are always in this kind of cone structure. Conifers in general are used a lot in landscaping and in lumber. Cycads is our last group of gymnosperms that we're going to look at. So these are plants with stout trunks and a crown of evergreen leaves, and they're found in tropical regions typically. This is another one that was around in prehistoric times and is still persisted to this day. They look like palms and ferns, sort of, but they're unrelated. This group is kind of by itself. They create these large cones with seeds, which kind of makes them unique to the other two. And these are significant for some cultures as far as their impacts with people, but otherwise there's not a lot of interaction. Now, the rest of the plants that we're going to have on this list are all of the angiosperms, and I shouldn't say all of, we're kind of hitting the highlights here. So these are some other families that are part of the angiosperms. There's a lot more plants beyond this, but I just kind of wanted to give a general overview. So this first one here is the Apiaceae. This is the celery family, a group of aromatic flowering herbs. So this includes carrots, celery, dill, parsley, and parsnips. The flowers are arranged in umbels, so like what we see here in this example, and we have schizocarp fruit as far as the fruit structure. Members of the celery family are often used as food, and they're also used for essential oils. Again, that aromatic or really fragrant kind of quality when you crush them. They have a lot of oils with a strong smell. So now we're going to look at the Ericaceae, and again, I'm probably going to mispronounce some of these family names, so I'm going to give it my best shot here. This is the palm family. All of them have fronds, so the large evergreen leaves that we associate with palm trees. This includes palms, But not every palm that you think of is necessarily a tree. Some of them are more like vines. It just depends on the particular palm. They produce small white flowers in a tight cluster like this, and they create single seed drupe fruits. So again, when we think of coconuts, that's a pretty typical example of what we're looking at. They're often used as food and for oils, especially palm oil is an ingredient in a lot of different foods that we eat, and they are also significant for some cultures. Another type of angiosperm is the Asteraceae. This is the daisy family. They all have very large flower heads, and again, we see kind of an interesting variety of them here. This includes chamomile, coneflowers, dahlia, dandelions, daisies, lettuce, so like up here, marigold, ragweed, sunflowers, and tumbleweeds. So what looks to be like a single flower in the flower arrangement that we look at is actually a cluster of smaller flowers when we look very closely at it. And the fruit type, again, we're looking here at dandelion seeds in particular. Those are Cypsella fruit. Again, that's kind of the arrangement there. This particular family of plants is used as food. They're used in herbal tea. They're used in ornamental displays. Again, very colorful in terms of the variety that we see here. And they're used in medicine, and some are considered weeds, especially dandelions. Another type of angiosperm, the Brassicaceae. This is the mustard family. They have kind of an alternating leaf pattern to them. This includes broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, collard greens, horseradish, kale, radish, turnips. They have lots of different flower arrangements, but here's at least one example of those flower arrangements. The particular fruit that they produce, again, it kind of depends on the size as far as which term is used here, but it's either a silic or a silicil as far as the fruit. These are used as food and in ornamental displays. So again, some of them are kind of showy, but a lot of them are used as food, especially the examples that we have here. Here's another one, the Cactaceae. So this is the cactus family. These are all succulent plants that are adapted for dry environments. So again, very low water requirements. Many have leaves that have been modified into spines. So they don't have leaves in the conventional sense that we think of most plants. They have the spines instead. This is all cacti, but not necessarily other succulents. There are other succulent plants that aren't necessarily part of this family. They have very tubular flowers, and they have fleshy or dry fruit. Sometimes it may have little spikes on it. It depends on the fruit and the species. These are, again, used a lot in ornamental displays. They will be used as food for the fruit, especially prickly pear, like here. And they can be used as physical barriers, again, because of those spikes that they naturally have. The Fabaceae, this is the legume family. They have very distinct seed pods. You can very easily identify a legume. This includes alfalfa, beans, chickpeas, peanuts, peas, and soybeans. The flowers have short floral cups. And again, that fruit is pretty distinct, that seed pod that we're looking at for a legume. These are used as food to create dye. They're used in ornamental displays. Again, the flowers are very pretty. These also help to fix nitrogen in the soil. Their roots help support bacteria that help with nitrogen fixation. So very important for the nitrogen cycle. The Lamiaceae, this is the mint family. They're very aromatic plants. Again, very fragrant, very nice smell to them. This includes basil, catnip, lavender, oregano, rosemary, sage, salvia, spearmint, and thyme. The flowers come in 2 clusters. And they have a dry nutlet as far as the fruit. They are used as food, mostly in terms of flavoring, again, because of that aromatic quality, and again, as essential oils because of that, again, the very fragrant aromatic qualities they have. They are also used occasionally as medicine. The Orchidaceae, another large family of flowers, the orchid family, they have bilaterally symmetrical flowers, so again, it's a mirror image. The left and right are equal on each portion of them. These are all the orchids, and it includes vanilla as part of that. That's part of the orchid family. The flowers are variable in shape, but again, you see that symmetry with them. The fruit is in a capsule, like what we're seeing here with what we think of as a vanilla bean, but they're not part of the bean family. Used for fragrances and ornamental displays as food in terms of vanilla, and again, significant for some cultures. Another angiosperm, the Poaceae. This is our grass family. They're all hollow stems with leaf sheaths, but again, there's a bigger variety here than you might expect. This includes bamboo, corn, rice, straw, sugarcane, and wheat. So again, we see a field of corn here. This is technically all modified grass. The flowers come in spikelet arrangements, like what you're seeing here. And then the technical term for all of the fruit, and again, it only has a single seed within this particular container, but it's a caryopsis fruit, is what we're looking at here. Used a lot as food and ornamental displays and spaces for sports. If you think about turf, that's natural turf made out of grass. They're used as fuel, especially ethanol, corn converted into ethanol, and for building materials like thatch. The Rosaceae, this is the rose family. So again, lots of different plant variety. They can be herbs, shrubs, or trees. They usually drop leaves, but some of them are evergreen. This includes almonds, apples, apricots, cherries, peaches, pear, plum, raspberries, rose, and strawberries. They have radially symmetrical flowers, so again, you can kind of cut them in several equal divisions. Variety of fruits such as achenes, capsules, drupes, follicles, hips, nuts, and pomes, like if you think about an apple or a pear. They are used a lot as food and in ornamental displays. And then the Solanaceae. This is the nightshade family. Many of them are toxic, but we have a lot of edible members that we interact with, such as bell peppers, chili peppers, eggplant, petunias, potatoes, tobacco, tomatillos, and tomatoes. Again, not all of those are edible, but a lot of them are safe for us to interact with. They have a variety of flowers. Again, it's kind of hard to piece out the variety. Here's some flowers among tobacco plants. They also have a variety of fruits, a berry or a capsule or a drupe. Here we see the tomatillos with that little covering on the outside of them, and here we can see some peppers developing. They're obviously used a lot as food and in ornamental displays, and they're also used as medicine. So again, I hope that this video helped to clarify a little bit about the two types of seed plants, gymnosperms and angiosperms, and some of the groups within that and how they are a little bit different from one another.